This one is going to ruffle some feathers, but nonetheless, it's a necessary topic to speak about. It's your fault that she broke your heart. It's your fault that you're not where you want to be. It's your fault that you experienced that failure in the past that you can't get over. Everything bad that has ever happened to you in your life is your fault. And this is a video, and perhaps the way that I'm going to be addressing this topic may come off as extreme, and it may shock a lot of people, or at least the viewers that are watching this video. But if anything, this is a lesson that is really more for my past self. And then of course, for those people that are watching now that need to hear this video, or, this reason, I'm sure this video ended up on your feed for some reason, I'm sure. The topic I want to talk about today is extreme ownership, as well as addressing the approach to ensure that in the future, the bad things that have happened to you so far don't happen again. But we need to start off by understanding and accepting that everything bad that has happened to you so far truly is your fault. And the way that you can easily start synthesizing that to yourself is the fact that we take credit for everything good that happens to us, right? When something good happens, it's very easy to take credit for it. And it's very easy to raise your hand and say, yup, I'm the guy that's responsible for that good thing happening. When it comes to the bad things happening, especially things that we've kind of justified and coped with on the fact that, oh, it was out of my control, I couldn't do anything about it, I've done my part, it was just no longer in my control at that point in time. The psychology and the process that we need to go through is a little different when it comes to accepting that perhaps it was your fault and it was the pattern of decisions that you took at the time that led you to being in that position or having that thing happen to you. But nonetheless, it is absolutely necessary that you tell yourself, I'm responsible for both the good and the bad in my life, because it puts you in a position in which you now have control. If you are someone that wants to throw the blame onto something else or somebody else and take on this victim mindset, this overall negatively serves you. And the reason for that is because you no longer have control. The reality is, if everything bad that has ever happened to you was actually in the control of a source or a power that was outside of your control, that was outside of your ability to make decisions on and control, what that means is your way of life now and the consequences of actions that happen to you are not actually in your control anymore, which is a bad thing because it means that somebody else or something else is controlling your life. But on the flip side, if you do take credit for the fact that all the bad things that have happened to you are your fault, as in, yes, imagine the most painful, extreme thing that you've ever been through. That was your fault too. You put yourself in that position. If you can start to open yourself up to that idea, it's more beneficial to you in the long run, because what that means is you are now in a position to learn, and you are now in a position in which you can take actions and put in place a plan so that it no longer happens to you again. So that you don't have to put yourself back in that same position where you felt that same terrible way about yourself that you never want to feel again. Understand extreme ownership. This was perhaps one of the most valuable lessons that I have ever learned growing up. It is valuable to you as well, because no matter what bad thing has happened to you, you want to accept the fact that you were in control of it and you led to it, because you can then also be in control and responsible for the fact of it not happening to you again. And that's what we want. And so this now helps me shift into the second topic of this video that I wanted to discuss, which is actually taking the actions and discussing the concept to ensure that these things don't happen to you. Now, why do they happen to you to begin with? The example that I'm going to present may not apply to everybody, but I think for the people that are watching this, perhaps it will apply to you. I know this is definitely what applies to me. And it's this concept of breaking your frame. So let's actually identify the frame first. What is the frame? The frame is the combination of identities, rules, boundaries, and lines that you put in place to identify yourself, your character, your standards, and the rules that you will not accept be broken. It is the red lines that you have identified for the people around you so that you don't get violated when it comes to the standards that you set for yourself. This could be in terms of how you treat yourself, let's say in terms of like the work that you do, the diet that you consume, the level of exercise and care that you put towards yourself, as well as the way that you allow other people to treat you. Your frame is the standard that you set for yourself when it comes to the way that you approach yourself and the way that you allow other people to approach you. Now, why is it very important for you to have a frame? It's because if you don't have an identity that is clearly defined for yourself, you're going to let other people define it for you. And when you let other people define it for you, it puts you in a position in which you're going to get stepped over, you don't get taken seriously, you don't get respected. And for many of you, that is the reason that you ended up in the position in which you've gotten your heart broken, or you've had people disrespect you, or you pretty much ended up in that position where you're like, man, I never want to feel like that again. It's because you didn't have a frame identified for yourself, or maybe you did have a frame, but you folded on the standards of that frame. So now that you're in a position where you're past that experience and you don't want it to happen again, how can we take ownership and then control the outcome for the future? Let's start off by identifying your frame. Now, the way that you do that is I want you to grab a piece of paper, or maybe even on your notes app, and write down the things that identify the top 1% highest potential of yourself. Now, I also used to think that writing was cringy, but this is something that I've changed my opinion on recently, because writing things down has allowed me to bring a lot of my ideas and thoughts to reality. The easiest way to bring a thought to reality and start working on it is to write it down so you don't forget it. So what I've started doing is I've gotten into the habit of writing things down on this little notepad that I have on my desk. I have the notes app on both of my phones. Any idea that I have, I just write it down. Maybe I'll make something out of it, maybe I don't. But at the very least, if it was a good idea, I know that I've made some attempt to bring it to life. And now, of course, when we're talking about the frame that identifies your character, it's very important that you write that down. So grab a piece of paper or pencil, or go on your notes app and write down 10 characteristics that identify the highest potential of yourself. This could have to do with your work habits. This could have to do with your diet habits. This could have to do with your exercise habits. This could have to do with the people that you hang around and the way you allow them to treat you and the way that you treat them. Imagine the best version of yourself. What does that individual look like? And then identify them. After you do that, what I want you to do is then also identify in your life the things that are stopping you from becoming that individual. So maybe you have a diet that's stopping you from becoming that best version of yourself. Maybe you have some exercise habits. Maybe it's most of the time what it is how you allow other people to treat you and how you treat them. So now that you've identified where you currently are and you've identified where it is that you want to go, how do we actually bridge that gap? You need to start undoing one by one the current characteristics of the identity that is causing you to be the person you don't want to be, so that you can then become the person that you want to become. And you're going to find that this is a very difficult process to complete. And the reason for that is because it's your old self fighting with this new version of yourself that you're trying to become. It's literally a fight for survival. It's a fight to the death between one individual, which is your old self, and then the new individual, which is what you want to become. Now, it's difficult because for many of you, you've never actually experienced or even tried to live even one day as the highest potential of yourself and see what it's like. So you're unfamiliar with it. So you stepping into that new territory becomes uncomfortable, and what you end up doing is resorting to the old habits that give you comfort and the old habits you're familiar with. But if you continue to do this, what you need to understand is that this is what has caused you to be in that position, to feel the way that you felt, that you don't want to feel like anymore, and it's going to cause you to keep falling back into it. You need to become a new individual with new standards and a new identity so that you no longer have those bad things happen to you again. So you need to identify the frame, and you need to stick to the frame. Now, you see, you might be in a position in which in the past you've actually already had this frame identified, but you folded on it. You knew the right thing to do, the right actions to take, but you still folded on your own frame, and that was what put you in the position to get hurt. So you need to make sure that the frame that you identify, you have full confidence in the fact that this is what's going to keep you safe, and you stick to that frame. Not because you're even trying to prove anything to anybody else, but because of the fact that you are trying to become a certain character. You need to identify a certain character that has responsibilities, and you cannot fold on the standards of that frame for anything or anybody. Now, when it comes to identifying the confidence in that frame, a lot of you might be asking, how do you actually find the confidence to know that the frame that you're identifying for yourself is right? Like, how do you actually know that the things that you are identifying for yourself are the right things to do, that this is the right path to take, that this is the right way to approach life? The simple answer that I have is the frame that I've identified for myself that I have absolute confidence in, as in, I know that this is the frame that will help me choose the best wife possible. This is the frame that's going to put me in the best position in my relationship with work, and it's going to help me become the most successful person I can possibly become. The frame that will allow me to build a circle of killers around me that motivate me and puts me in a position to motivate them. all the nice things that somebody could want in life. The frame that I have and the confidence that I have in it comes from the fact that my frame is defined by the standards of God. So I'm a Muslim, I'm a practicing Muslim. My frame is directly in line with the character that Islam teaches you to become, to be the best version of yourself. And this gives you extreme confidence when you're identifying this frame, because it's backed by the creator of the universes. Like, imagine going to the highest level individual possible, the smartest, the one individual that has all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the right answers in the world, and you ask him to identify this frame for you. And that is God, Allah. Allah has defined that frame for me on how to be the best possible Muslim man. And so with that being said, I have a confidence in the frame that I've identified, unlike anything I've ever experienced before. There are very few things that you can be sure about in life that are 100% guaranteed to you, but I know I am 100% guaranteed is the correctness of the frame and the identity that has been given to me by Allah as a Muslim. Now, a lot of people that will identify a frame without God, what I've seen before is people say, yeah, I need to have the best body possible. I need to make the most amount of money. I need to find a girl that completely respects me and says everything that I do, and it's either my way or the highway. And you know what? That works. For a lot of guys, I believe the proper terminology with this way of thinking is the red pill. It works, but when it comes to the human standards, comparing yourself, let's say, to all the potential examples that we've seen in history, are you following the example of, let's say, some of the best people that we all know and agree upon? No, not necessarily. A lot of people might actually identify you as a cold-hearted bastard. And that's not what you want. What you want with the frame that you identify for yourself is, as much as you're protecting yourself from the bad things that have hurt you in the past, and you're putting yourself in a position where it doesn't get repeated again, you also want the same frame to attract goodness into your life. You want it to be a frame that now attracts the right girl into your life, that attracts the right friends into your life, that attracts the right treatment from the people that are already in your life, and attracts the right opportunities. So how do you actually do that? Like I said, I think the best answer, in my opinion, is identifying a frame that fits directly in line with what God teaches us to do, which is being good individuals, being kind-hearted individuals, being capable individuals that also fight back if we need to fight back. Ideally, this is what I would say is the identity of like a Muslim man. For me personally, the frame that I've identified for myself is, number one, when it comes to the way that I treat myself, I prioritize, number one, my relationship with God. Because if you don't have a relationship with God, you have nothing else. If you don't have a relationship with the provider and creator and the ultimate power source for everything else, then you really don't have any power at all. That's number one. Number two, identifying for me a work that will give me the financial means, the ability, and the freedom to do really whatever I want with my life, and put me in a position in which the things that I do with my time allow me to provide solutions that are beneficial to many people at once. That's the goal with my work, ultimately. When I am someone that is running my business and I'm building not only my existing businesses, but other businesses in the future, what do I ultimately want? I want to build businesses that not only put me in a position where I have financial freedom, time freedom, geographic freedom, but at the same time, they also provide a lot of people with value, and it allows me to build a legacy in which I've benefited many other people. That's the business that I run. Those are the standards and the morals that I keep in mind, let's say, when I'm thinking of getting to a new idea. When it comes to my personal health, I make sure that I, number one, have strength through weightlifting, and then number two, I am able-bodied and capable when it comes to self-defense and fighting, which is through a martial art. So those are the standards and the frame that I've identified for myself. And what I've noticed is most of the time, if I ever veer off too much into one side or the other side, or let's say I have both or I have none, I am ultimately unsatisfied with my level of physical fitness and my capabilities. So I always like to maintain strength through lifting, and then also endurance and agility and flexibility and general ability through a martial art. The same is reflected in my diet. I like to make sure that I have a diet that is, let's say, high in protein, so that it gives me strength, that provides my body with all the nutrients that it needs. And that is ultimately, let's say, the three top things that I have when it comes to the way that I treat myself and the frame that I've identified for myself. And of course, as always, when I step outside of the frame that I know is good, I always learn my lesson and I'm brought back to ultimately want to do the right thing again. So whether that's eating junk food, whether that's taking on a business idea that I know doesn't serve me, whether I get too distant from God, I always end up coming back to the frame that I've identified when I was fully conscious, when my brain was in my head and I was thinking right at the time. Whenever I have those moments of weakness where I drift off the path that I've identified for myself, I always regret it. So this is why it's always important to identify the frame and then stick to your frame, stick to your word, because that's what's going to protect you and that's what's going to ultimately make you what we call a man of your word. When it comes to the frame that I have identified for the way that people treat me, I need to be treated with respect. I give respect. I always step my best foot forward. I treat other people with the best possible level of my ability that I can, and I expect that respect and that treatment back. If I don't receive it, then that means that we're in a position in which perhaps we don't need to be interacting with each other. Respect is a two-way street. If you give it and you don't receive it, then perhaps that's someone that you don't want in your life. And that's the general rule when it comes to everybody. When it comes to, let's say, the girl that I will have in my life, I need, number one, someone that has the same values as me when it comes to my belief system, plans for the future, and let's say identities and current goals and paths in life. Number two, someone that is serious about commitment. So if you are, let's say, considering being with a girl that only enjoys the attention, but doesn't take you seriously when it comes to you discussing commitment, you're selling your stock short. You are offering to put your best foot forward with someone that isn't taking you seriously. You need to have someone that respects you just as much as you respect them. And you need to have someone that also, just being a Muslim, and I believe this is something that maybe more Westerners should take on in terms of their approach with the relationships, get your families involved. A lot of people conduct relationships like children. Like they're conducting a kind of like what you'd call a sneaky link with no parent supervision. Grown men and women, people in their late 20s and early 30s that are acting the same way that people conduct a relationship when they're 14 years old. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then people get surprised when they get their hearts broken and they got into something that was clearly never serious from the beginning, and they tried to make it serious and try to make something out of it when it all just turned into shambles and fell apart like it was a joke. You're talking about building your life with someone, and you're talking about making the most important decision that you will ever make in your life. You need someone that's just as serious about the situation and takes this just as seriously as you do. Because if you put yourself in a position in which you're giving 100% and you find someone that's only half-assing it because, they just enjoy the attention or whatever bit of value they get from you, you'll ultimately end up getting your heart broken. Which is why you need to, especially in my opinion, when it comes to identifying the partner that you're going to have in your life, you need to have a very solid, strict frame when it comes to identifying this person, and you cannot fold on it. If you make exceptions on the frame that you identify for the person that will be your partner in life, you will always regret it and you're always going to get your heart broken. And the reason for that is because when you're talking about building your life with an individual, this is the most serious thing that you will ever do. So you need someone that, once again, as I mentioned, takes it just as seriously as you do. The right person won't need you to fold on your standards. Like, think about that. The right person won't need you to continuously chase them to prove to them that you love them or that they love you. They won't ask you to fold on standards that you have identified literally by the wisdom of God. There will be no confusion. There will be no questions that are left unanswered. There will be no lack of communication that leaves you up at night thinking, what did I do? What could have possibly went wrong, without being able to just go up to the person and ask them exactly what happened. The right person will not only allow you to stay within the frame that you've identified for yourself, but will actually complement it and help you elevate it. And so when it comes to the part of your life, when you're prepared, in which you're looking for the partner that you're going to choose, that you're going to call your significant other, that you're going to call the co-parent to you raising children, you must be extremely strict with the frame that you hold for yourself, and do not fold. Look for the things that you need, the things that fit the standards that you've already identified for yourself, and not what you want. Because we don't always want the things that are best for us. Verse in the Quran that I love, that I always think about, is the fact that, and this is just what along the lines of it, it's not the exact thing, but you may want something for yourself that is bad for you, and you may reject something that is actually good for you. You need to And in short, like the best way that you can understand this when it comes to like the modern English that we use is you need to go looking for what you need and not what you want. When you give yourself what you need, you are in a position in which consciously you're thinking of the long-term benefits that come with it. You might not necessarily be so excited in the moment, but long-term, this is what will ultimately benefit you. And you want to have that delayed gratification process because you need to consider how you will feel about the situation in 5, 10, 20, 30 years. Whereas if you look for the thing that will instantly gratify you, but you know is going to hurt you down the line, well then, this is why we started off the video by telling you that it's your fault that you got your heart broken. So while you're watching this video right now, think about everything that has potentially already happened to you in your life and consciously think to yourself, what was it that put me in that position? How did I end up in that position? And what part of my frame and my identity do I need to adjust so that it doesn't happen again? So consider the person that you end up in a relationship with. Consider the standards you set for the people that are around you and how they treat you. Consider the standards that you put on yourself for how you treat your body, how you treat your mind, how you treat the work that you do, and how you treat your future. And I guarantee you, if you identify that frame for yourself that will get you just one step closer to the best version of yourself that you want to be every single day, enough steps in a row, you're following yourself there. And you'll never have to feel the way that you felt that day ever again. See you in the next one.